Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you, your friends, your family, and all your relatives, will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. Now, with that said, hey, 65. Um, the title of this video, I've seen commercials and people doing stuff about apps for preparation, prepper apps. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what? Now, for those folks who are like rushing to figure out what the hell is going on, and I have said many things about prepping, and it seems that some folks out there um, who I don't would like to say that maybe be in the know, but they're cautious, right? They're Army folks and Marine folks and, just folks in general. And they've been warning folks for the last week or so, especially this week. If you want to stock up on something, if something happens in the next week or so and maybe your money doesn't work, they're telling people, have cash on hand. What have I been saying? Have cash on hand. Because regardless of whatever happens, have cash on hand. So, to buy up some canned goods and maybe some noodles or pasta and things like that, something and soups or, like Progresso soups in a can, you can dump that over, some rice or potatoes if you have them. Or some kind of pastas, all kinds of different kinds of noodles, and they store well. I know because that's what I do. So, but this idea of prepper apps, and I'm thinking to myself for the last couple of days, so they've got this app on their phone. Now, what if you can't get a signal? What if that app is somehow attached to the internet and for whatever reason you can't access it? So, what now? I got to be honest. I'm going to be very sarcastic with this. Yeah, and a little bit, maybe a little snide at times, but it's mostly meant as a little bit of satire, okay? Because if you need an app on your phone when the end of the world as we know it comes to the Teotihuacan or however that's spelled out, which people are talking about, it's like, I could, if there was going to be a time, I'd say, yeah, but now to the prepper app, what? Seriously, what? So you've got this app on your phone. What if your phone doesn't work for whatever reason? So what good does this app do you? Is your phone going to be worthless, useless? Now, again, I'll tell you that I've just looked into some of these, but I haven't downloaded them because I'm like, this seems so frivolous to me. Because if you need a prepper app at this time in your life, I don't know how good that's going to save you in any way, shape, or form. So, but to be honest and candid to the people who have lived by their cell phones, they turn their TV on from, from the office, they check on their dog. It's just so crazy. So now you have to have an app to be prepared. What if the phone doesn't work? What if the towers don't work? What if your program, for whatever reason, gets sidetracked? Now you're relying on your phone and this app to prepare you for what? The end? What good? I'm just asking myself to the universe, what good is this cell phone and an app going to do for people if the situation ever comes that they must be prepared and that they must be ready? If they have to have an app right now, I just want to say, well, good luck to you. And I do mean that. But Lord have mercy, if you're only thinking about it now and you need your damn cell phone to figure it out, oh my God, you are in so much trouble. You know what I mean? If you haven't been aware of some of this stuff before, and now all of a sudden you are, and you need your cell phone to get you through this, I'm praying for folks, because I look around my house and I realize I've got different kinds of soups and vegetables, and some of them I don't really like too much, but they're there. And the cans are outdated, but I've gone and opened up old cans that were outdated and supposedly no good 3 years ago. And you know, nothing in them. They open up fine. There's no smell or rancid anything. And if you're going to heat it and cook it, well, then most things will be dead if you heat it up high enough, right? And for long enough. And so I have to wonder, in this crazy world right now, how much faith people are going to put in to a prepper app. And if that is the case, then I guess I need to pray a little harder for some of these people, because if at the last minute they're prepper apps so everybody can prepare now, is there going to be a run on stores, or people going to try to buy bagged freeze dried foods, and I have tried some of those over the years, and MREs aren't really that bad, but you really don't want to live on them. I'd rather have canned goods like I have, and some pastas and some rice and things like that. I prefer the canned goods and some of the other things over the freeze dried stuff. Will it save you? Can you? Yes. Okay. But there are people who are rushing to buy like now. And so, because for some reason these apps are going to prepare them, and they want to do something that a lot of us have been doing most of our lives, or at least for me, all of my life, I've been preparing for whatever comes my way. Okay. Not just the end of the world as we know it, but the many storms that have come through here. I was out walking in the backyard with the dog this evening, scouting for firewood. And oh my God, in the last year, I've got 4 or 5 really big oak trees down. Now, the bad news is they're down back in the woods, and I don't have anything to drive down there with. So if I'm going to tote that firewood out, I'm going to have to tote it out with a hand truck and carry it and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of good oak down there that got pushed over within this last season or so, because I don't remember some of this wood being down this last year when I burned the property, for example. And so there's trees down all over the place and good oak. And I'm like, what storm did that? Yes, I grow potatoes, Delaney. Hi, everybody. And I've got some sweet potatoes that that started growing, and I put them out in the garden. And I've got some other things. Now, I have been behind in my gardening this year, and I usually have some greens out and that type of thing right now, and I don't. The garden got overgrown so badly, it's taken me forever to try to clean it up, to get to it. And it just overwhelmed me this last year. But Alexa, make me a sandwich. That's a good one, Ian. Do you have an app for that 65 Starlight for prepping? Because I tried to look into it. I was like, well, I don't have anything. I don't have a cell phone. I can't download it if I wanted to. And so, you want to look at the app, but you can only view it in the store. Jody says, to be honest, I've been considering getting loads of canned goods, shelved goods. I've been gathering certain items like extra knives and a couple of axes, even blankets for colder weather. Yes, Jody. And it's interesting that people are starting to speak about what I've been talking about for at least a year now, about canned goods and their shelf life, and get what the types of things you like. I had a little bit of I'll think of it in a minute. A couple of shrimp left, some frozen shrimp, and a half a package of I can't think of them now. Anyway, seafood. And so I stirred it up with 1 can of petite tomatoes rather than a tomato sauce, I took a good douse squirt of ketchup to make it a little thicker. A can of mushrooms, you know, sauteed all that with half an onion and sprinkled it in there. Of course, some garlic, and a couple other minor herbs and whatever. And then I, boiled up a half a pot of, some noodles, right? And me and Duggar had some of it, and I still got a little bit left. But I ate two big bowls of it yesterday for dinner, and so two cans, a can of mushrooms and a can of tomatoes. And now the seafood was sort of, I had it in the freezer, needed it to go kind of thing. But if I hadn't had it, I could have added another can of mushrooms or something else. It doesn't have to be meat. I just happen to have this little recipe for this, this little pasta sauce kind of thing with shrimp and etc. And it varies from time to time. But the thing is, though, that I was quite satisfied with that, and it was a really cheap meal. It was really simple to make. It took 20 minutes for the whole thing. Half of that time was waiting on the water to boil for the noodles kind of thing. So, but the idea though that, that we need all these special things in order to survive. And the answer is no. Okay. We don't need all this high tech stuff. And so Jody, go to the store and get some canned goods that you like, and, for example, you can get a succotash that's different vegetables mixed together, corn and depending. And there's one that they've got corn and okra and tomatoes, and I love that. And put it the thing, and you can eat it separately or with rice or something else. And depending on what you do for sugar, the things that will bother us most when you have something is the monotony of it. So make sure you got some herbs. Make sure you got an extra bottle or two of some olive oil. And I use olive oil more than any of these other oils simply because they're made out of olives. And if you get canola oil or anything like that, you should check into it. There's rapeseed oil, there's cottonseed oil in there, which should not be there. Canola is not actually canola anymore. They changed the rules years ago. I've had a discussion about this, but the safest oil I have found, and for me now, I like peanut oil. I got a gallon of peanut oil, maybe 2 gallon and a half of peanut oil, and several quarts of olive oil. It's easy to cook with. It doesn't burn that bad, and especially if you know how to cook with it. Never overheat your oil. Just heat it enough. If it's steaming and all, you're overcooking the oil. But peanut oil is good for frying things. But those people who are allergic to it, well, so. But if you're not allergic to peanut oil, get some. Simply because you can fry the crap out of stuff and it won't burn the oil. It's really good for deep frying. Now, I don't do a lot of deep frying, but I have peanut oil around for when I do. It doesn't go bad, especially if you keep it closed. So an oil can come in handy for other things too. You can literally make oil lamps with them that are very simple, sort of like an alcohol lamp kind of thing. So, but anyway, find the canned goods that you like. Find things, if you like Hamburger Helper, but you ain't got no hamburger because the refrigerator ain't working, you still have these ingredients to make this stuff, right? So now I don't like Hamburger Helper, but there are people who love it. So macaroni and cheese, the packet of cheese. So you can stock up on that. Now I'm a coffee fiend. Oh, and by the way, let's say hi to Bob. Ed, how are you? 65. It's good to see you. There have been a lot of big booms around here. I mean, really big. Feel it on the floor, And being that my floor is like on the ground, it really comes through. I mean, tonight just several boom, and almost rattle the windows. They seem to be a little way away. I don't know where they're coming from. There's nothing around here that should go boom. I'm out in the country. So it's interesting that it's happening though. Anyway, but back to the food thing, you can get boxes. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I drink a lot of coffee, mostly Folgers. I've tried other brands and stuff, but I like Folgers for several reasons because of their nice cans they have with the closable lid, right? And so, speaking of which, here's a can that I put stuff in. I won't tell you what, but I put stuff in and it keeps stuff dry and all that kind of good mess. It's easy to handle. It's got a handle on it. And I usually write on the side of it with, like with a black marker, what's in it. And, and if you know that you're going to have rice in something, then every time you get rice, pour it in there. I keep sugar in them. To Bob, cheers. Thank you all. I don't know what's blooming 65. It's like it's been weird. That's what you drink too, Ed? Yeah, Folgers. But anyway, and they've got some little shorter ones that are really good. After I finish them off, then they fit in places in my kayak as a little dry container. So I can put stuff in it and shove it up in the nose of my kayak. And, I haven't had one of the lids come off yet, unless it was me stumbling around or dropping something. But anyway, but there are a lot of plastic containers that you can use. And I've got some really big, tall ones that I keep noodles in and spaghetti and like that. So as soon as I get home, I take them out of the boxes and put them in their containers. And when I see that a container is getting low, next time I go to the store, I buy 2 or 3 boxes. I don't just buy one box. I buy 2 or 3. Some people say, well, isn't that a little bit overkill? You don't use that much. That's not the point. Like today, I was going to go to the store and I go out there. I got a brand new battery in my truck, right? I go out there, put the key in and turn it. Nothing. It's deader than a doorknob. I bought 2 other batteries, marine batteries, and hooked them up to try to get my truck to start, and it would not. I had to take things apart. So I spent my afternoon, which was supposed to be go to town to get some supplies. Oh, by the way, several of these folks are saying get cash out of the bank because your cards ain't going to work. If you can, and how much, get what you think is necessary. But I'd much rather have my money in my back pocket than to be in some bank that I cannot access or that someone won't take my check. They may take a check over a card because the card may not read at all. At least the check has got routing numbers and that kind of thing. So, but if now this is all this, if this nastiness really does hit, okay. So, but in the idea of preparing for things, having your card ain't going to do squat if it gets that bad. Cell phones may very seriously not work. And depending on what happens, so have what you can put your grubby little fingers on. Canned goods, pastas, rice. Now people say, oh, well, rice will last a long time. Rice and beans. Listen to me. If you've got a situation now, I don't have this issue. I got water in the well that I can literally drop a bucket in and haul water up. Okay. I've got 2 tanks, 1,000 gallons each. So I have 2,000 gallons of rainwater, and I have them in such a way that I can run a hose into my house back here. So I don't have to carry water around the house to flush the toilet. So I can have water in my house, and with a gravity feed, it's slow, but it's better than not having any water at all. Now, I've been preparing for whatever for the longest time. And I've been praying and hoping it would not come. But now we're in a situation where people are, starting to get really scared about some things, 10 days of darkness, so this idea though, can you literally last 10 days? Now, I do it all the time. I'll go to the grocery store and I'll say, well, I'm out of milk, but I got canned milk, evaporated milk. If you like milk in your coffee or something like that, then buy evaporated milk, condensed milk if you like. But evaporated milk will last a long time in a can, especially if you live in a cooler climate, so that, there's not a heat stress on the cans or whatever. But so there are lots of ways to prepare simply with what's already in the grocery store. Now, a friend of mine, he was like, well, I got me a generator so I could run my refrigerator. And then he was like, it's going to cost this much. And I was like, okay, let's think about this. If you put ice in your freezer and you don't have a very big freezer, so how long is it going to keep things? After 10 days, a family of four ain't going to have much in the freezer. You know what I mean? Depending on how they dole it out and how big the freezer is. But if it's a refrigerator freezer, you may find yourself in a situation where, holy crap. So I was like, well, listen, now, that if you make ice, and my freezer is more full of these little ice packs, right, than there is food. But what I found, though, if I keep some in the freezer, then if the lights go out, I can put these little cooler thingies in my refrigerator, okay, to help the refrigerator stay cool. Now, I do have a little tailgater generator. I haven't fired it up yet, which is, I have to get the right mix for it, and I keep getting the wrong. Anyway, I'm making excuses. Okay, I should have already done this. But in this reality of things, I wouldn't run the thing all day long or all night long. I would turn the generator on to run my refrigerator long enough to bring the temperature down in the refrigerator. And I'd tell everybody, get your stuff out now. And then I'd turn, to save gas and wear and tear, I would turn the generator off. So only run it during, those times when you really need it. So, and he was figuring on it's going to run all day to keep his refrigerator running. And I thought, now that's just plumb dumb. And I told him kind of sort of that. I was like, listen, think about this. How long do if you open it up during the day, you might run it for a couple hours and people in and out and stuff like that. But if you plan on it, when you open the fridge, get the stuff out you need and close the damn door. And if you've got a gallon jug or two that you can freeze in the freezer and put that in the refrigerator, that helps keep the temperature. Anyway, so these types of things. So people are going to run a generator to run a refrigerator all day and all night. And it's like, no. So think about how many gallons it's going to take. Do you have enough gas? Do you even have a generator? Or do you really need one? So I've been seriously looking into, and I should have already bought it by now, but they make some really nice 12-volt kind of refrigerator coolers that you can take camping. And people say, well, that's just not big enough. Yeah, but you can run it off of a car without having to use any kind of special items. You don't have to have a voltage regulator thingy, to push it up to, 110, 120 volts, right? And a lot of these converters that I've seen really don't last. And you say, well, I'm only going to use 1,000 watts. If I ever push that. So I'm going to get a 1,200 watt thing that should do me. Nah, no. You should always get twice the size of what you need. So if your refrigerator is the only thing you're really going to run, albeit, you could unplug it and plug something else in, but that would be your highest running thing. So, but in the size of these things and what they do, so some of them have little tiny freezers in them, and some of them are just coolers. So, but for the price, it's like, yeah, but I can take that damn thing anywhere. If for some reason I got to move my ass, I'm still going to have 12 volts, because I've got, some solar panels that I've purchased over the last 2 or 3 years. So, and they're big enough, large enough. I've already tested some of this, that, within a good day, depending on how far I drive these batteries down, I have plenty of battery power to run these things, at least for short periods. And if I'm not going to open the thing all the time, well, then, now here's something too. I want to kind of, how can we prepare ahead of time for certain things? Now, when I went to jail, one of the hardest things I had to learn was to be without ice. Yeah, yeah, that's a bad thing. See, and I use rainwater for my coffee because there's a little bit too much mud in my well system right now because of a cave in. And so, I mean, the water's still good. I can let the water sit, and it'll, the mud will settle to the bottom, and it'll be clear. But and which is interesting because I can drop a bucket in the top of the well, and there isn't there. It's just as clear and clean and good and yummy. But anyway, um, and so for me, Ed, now depending on where you are and what you got, one of those big, 25-gallon igloo coolers or whatever size they are, they hold water really well. And if you take stuff and it rains, you can basically take the rainwater and dump it in one of those containers. And it's got a spout on it. You can, you know what I'm saying? So, like the kind they use on a construction site. And it doesn't have to be that big, but if you're careful with the water and what you're using, and you don't use that water, you're drinking water for for flushing the commode. And people say, well, then since what if you do if you can't flush the commode? And I go, aha, there you go. A 5-gallon bucket with one of those, I think about $6 at Walmart. And if you don't have one of those toilet seats, just sit on the damn thing, versus trying to flush a commode, especially if you have no source of water. Why a 5-gallon bucket? Because you can take it, you can go outside and dig a hole and dump it in and like a cat and cover it up. You can clean out the bucket, put some sand in it, and you can still poo or do whatever you need to do. But you don't have to worry about it stinking up your house and all that. You can use sand to put in there after you get done, a little sand or sawdust, but to the point, folks, when they get into a situation, I saw some folks that, had lost power, and the whole family, instead of trying to, do something else, they all used, get this, the bathtub to poo in. And when I got there to try to fix the problem and so forth, it was the one of the most grossest things I've ever seen. And they would just go in and drop their drawers and hang themselves over and poo in the bathtub. And I'm like, oh my God. But so anyway, but there are simple things that can be done without going to a lot of expense. And you say, well, damn, my water's off. I don't have this. I don't have that. You will become very resourceful very soon. One thing that has been stated for years is like, and there was a show where they took, it's been a couple of years ago, and they took people into these weird situations and they were to survive. But they drop them off in sort of like a zombie apocalypse kind of deal. And so these folks, got together, and they took a 5-gallon bucket, no clean water, right? Yeah, Michelle. Oh God, it was more than you. Oh, it was gross. But anyway, so they took a 5-gallon bucket and they made charcoal by burning some wood, okay, and they took clean sand. They found some sand and a layer of charcoal and a layer of sand and a layer of charcoal and a layer of sand. Now, it has been cited by folks in the business. Now, it doesn't necessarily take out certain volatiles, certain chemicals will stay bonded to the water. But if it's muddy and nasty and whatever, if you pack a 5-gallon bucket full and pour the water, if it's muddy water, you pour it over that and you have a little hole on the bottom of it, and you allow the water to come out. And the water that comes out is usually pretty drinkable. Now I would still boil that water and depending on where you're getting the water. Now if rainwater, I just go out with buckets and collect it, So if you want to prep, make sure you got a couple 5-gallon buckets. If you got city water and you don't know if they're going to have any water and people go crazy, you can go outside if it rains or snows or whatever, and you've got a way to at least collect it. You got ways to carry the water. You've got ways to take a poo if you need to. You can also wash dishes in a 5 gallon bucket, you know, and never ever to throw that your water out, because you can use that water if you need to flush something or to clean something else. And when you get done doing dishes, don't throw the water out. Put that gray water in another container, okay? And the soap that's in it and stuff like that. And there are those who have poured that water through a bucket of sand and charcoal and drank it later on, or you are reused that water for um, washing and cleaning kind of thing. And especially if you boil water. So, you know, there are lots of ways to reuse water and to recirculate it without getting into osmosis and reverse, osmosis and all this. And, there are ways that folks did it a long time ago and still, in some places, still do. So we need to revert back to those things. But my point about a phone app, I'm praying for them people, because if if it's any good at all, maybe it will help them. I'm trying to be honest about that, but at the same time, I think it's a little frivolous. But maybe I'm being too snobbish in the fact that I've known this stuff for the last 50 years. So I, I will be honest and say I'm probably being snobbish to these poor folks. But if they're relying on that app to get them through, Lord have mercy, there's going to be a lot of starving people. So, but with that, hey Delaney, Isby 543, greetings Hawkeye, awesome, much love and favor to you as well, my friends. So, but anyway, I just wanted to get on here and be a little sarcastic about this. But at the same time, there's so many simple things you can do. Okay. And number one, get money out of the bank. Have cash in hand. Number two, have some 5 gallon buckets or, something that you can collect and move and stuff like that. When I go camping, I always take 2 or 3 buckets because you can flip them upside down and sit on the damn things. But you can also carry water and this and that and whatever. So the next other thing is go to the store, and I would do it before next week, because and here's the deal, and this is what Pastor out in Arkansas said. A bunch of folks moved out there, and not necessarily a commune, but a Christian community. And he said, when you go to the store, get what you need and buy as much as you can. Because if nothing happens, which we're all hoping nothing will happen, you can still eat the food. You haven't lost anything, right? You can still cook it. You know what I'm saying? So buying extra food. So he was like, if you go to the store and you usually buy 2 cans of corn, buy 6 cans of corn. Buy 3 times as much if you can afford it. Hey, Sarah, how are you? So there are simple things we can do. And those simple things, if nothing goes wrong and everything stays, okay, you can still eat the food. And if you freeze dried or something, and, just saying. Also, I get cans of fruit cocktail for my fruit, and there's juice in it and there's something to drink. So, for lunchtime, I'll eat a can of fruit cocktail. Now, I know that some of those cans have a little bit too much sugar in them. So I try to get those that, are unsweetened or whatever, and it's just the natural juices. But, if I go down on the river and I want a snack that's not real heavy or anything, I'll take a can of, fruit cocktail with me and just toss it in the back of the kayak or throw it in the canoe, right? And so I can open it up. I got something to drink. I've got a can when I'm done with it, and I can just, eat it, drink it right out of the can. Don't need a spoon. You know what I'm saying? So, but if we're preparing, if that's really what you're doing, there are things. So you can't get fresh fruit, okay? But I've got cans of mixed fruit. Why? Because depending on how long something might happen, you don't want to get scurvy. So you can't keep fresh vegetables like you can canned foods. And I have, this is sort of a plug, but I'm not getting paid for it. Uh, this Good and Smart, um, this is dried mango. Now, this is at the Dollar General stores. Not all of them, but mostly. And so every time I go to the store, I buy several of these. They've got dried pineapple, which I really love. Um, dried cherries, which I like cherries, and they're really good something to chew on. Dried apricots. They do have dried banana chips and other things like that, but because I have few teeth, the bananas are a little rough on me. But you can soak them in a little bit of water and hydrate them, and that but to the point, why bananas? Because of the potassium, and so we want to get our vegetables, we want to get our fruits, we want to get as much as we can. And people say, oh, well, that food in them cans. Listen, I've been eating out of them cans for years. I ain't dead yet. Okay. I can't get the fresh type vegetables that I would like to and whatever. But with that said, you can get potted meat. You can get you can get whole chickens in a can. You can get chicken and dumplings. I can't remember the name of it. But out of a can, it ain't bad. So you get your chicken and your dumplings, and cans about Subi, I think was the name of it. But anyway, so you can get different things to supply you that. But this idea of just get yourself some rice and beans, you after the third day, you'll be so flippin' tired of that. Now, here's another thing. Now, for certain things like greens and things, and Delaney will tell you about this, I got a huge seed stock too. Yep. Weed seeds too. Oh, Delaney, you're funnier than hell. But to your point, I got some of that too. But anyway, um, I lost where I was headed with that. But anyway, in the things that you're preparing for, so make sure you guys, if you don't have something, you've got enough uh something around, like a bucket or a this or a that or some pans that that you'll figure it out. So for me, I got water in the backyard, 420 across America. Yeah, okay, all right. Smoke if you got them. Sarah, I'm doing well. Just did on Tai Chi on the soft grass. Walked a few miles. It's warm and like spring here today. Where at, Sarah? It was sunny today, but still chilly. But as soon as the sun started going down, holy camole, the temperature dropped right along with it. It's going to be 28 or 26 here in a day or so. But anyway, hey, Julianne, got your gifts and talents ready. Prescott, Arizona. Yeah, okay. But like for me, when I was out in the desert and I looked around, I was like, I don't think I could make it out there. It's one thing to make it down here in the swamps, and there, as far as people saying, well, I'll go squirrel hunting or something, or I'll go do this, or I'll go do that. They can barely open a can. Well, what if your electric can opener doesn't work? Then what do you do? Well, I don't know. Well, I know how to open it up with my pocket knife. What? Yeah, I can open a can with my pocket knife, and it doesn't have a thing on it. It's just a regular pocket knife. Well, how do you do that? Well, you learn. I guess I've been stranded so many times. It's like, well, what do I got here? Well, I got my knife, chunka, 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 and you open your can, right? So, but smoke if you got them. No, I didn't get my cigarettes today because my truck wouldn't start. My batteries were dead. What the hell? And I just bought it, the battery. So, but the hardest thing I had to live with when I went to jail was ice. ICE, ice. And I know people that even in the dead of winter, they'll fill up a big old tumbler for their iced tea with mostly ice and then pour the tea over it. And I realized that, if I was on a restricted basis, but I still wanted some tea or I still wanted whatever, where I used to use 2 or 3 spoonfuls of sugar, teaspoons now, but still it was too much sugar. So I've taught myself to use less sugar in my coffee. I've taught myself to use less milk in my coffee. Now, if I got a fresh gallon, extra milk. But if a situation arises, are you going to have enough sugar to make that sweet tea? And for those people who are so used to having ice, what are they going to do when everything is room temperature? Now, as cold as it is right now, you can take something outside and it'll be cold in a heartbeat. But yeah, I know Prescott, pine trees and forest here. Yes. Um, is Flagstaff in Arizona? Yeah, I think so. When I went through Arizona and went through the Flagstaff area and through there, I was like, man, this is beautiful. Now I could live there. I don't know if I could survive there, but I could live there. And I was really surprised at the mountain range kind of thing, desert. And then all of a sudden there's this, all these forests and trees. And the next thing you know, you're on the other side of it. It's desert again. So that was interesting when I was out there. Didn't have enough time to stay. But that was one place where I thought if I ever get back west again, I'd love to go to that area. Don't talk dumping. Yeah, right, Johan. Now, see, in the days of the carny business back in the old days, now you could still do this, but for people that have a motor home or that kind of thing, right? They got a holding tank. So in the carny business, it was called a Donecker hole. That's what they called toilets, a Donecker. And I always thought it was funny, still do. But so everybody had a set of post hole diggers. So when you got to a spot, you backed your trailer in up to usually something, and everybody got out their little post hole diggers, right? And you dug a hole that big around, not real big, that big around, and as deep as you could get it with them post hole diggers. And then you took the dirt and put it on one side. Everybody had a board. Now, the reason you didn't make the hole too big was because you had a board that went over it. And that's where your pipe went into it from your toilet. And you took the dirt that you dug out of the hole and spread it around the board so no undesirable smells came out of the hole, right? Now, the trick is, if you're going to dump, then you put the pipe in the hole. If you're not, and you just run in the shower or whatever, then you take the pipe out of the hole and just let that gray water run out on the ground. And so it has worked for, a century with gypsies and people and stuff like that. A post hole digger hole. Now, when I first, it was interesting because it caved in about a year or so ago. I put a 55-gallon drum in the ground. And that was my original septic tank here because I needed something right away. I couldn't afford the drain lines. And so how long will a 55-gallon drum, steel, mind you, last in the ground as a temporary septic tank? It lasted 30 years before the top caved in and I had to fill up the hole. I was surprised. I forgot the damn thing was there. But the thing is, though, it could have still been used, right? But, I dug my own and made my own little septic tank, and knock on wood, it's okay at the moment. And don't pour bleach down if you got a septic tank, don't put bleach in it. Use something else. It'll kill every microorganism in your septic tank, and it will overload, overfill, overload, and you'll have problems. So if you're using bleach and you got a septic tank, stop it. You use ammonia, use something else. Anyway. But a Donecker hole, and to the point about Johan, that's exactly it. You dig yourself a Donecker hole, And if you poo in a 5 gallon bucket or whatever, and a little bit of sand on top, like you don't have to have kitty litter. But and you can say, well, I don't have any dirt. Unless you live on a rock, you've got dirt somewhere, and it doesn't take a lot. And I always use, that cheap dollar store pine sol, kind of the pine thing. So you can take literally a cap full of that and put it on top and a little bit of dirt, and all you'll smell is the pine, unless you've had a really bad, um, dumping with David Null. I love it. Yeah. How do we take oh, really, Sarah? The forest in Flagstaff is all dead now? It flooded there with mud coming. Oh man, that's horrible. I mean it. I want to buy some land in the Ozarks. I tried. And here's the thing. If you know about the national forest there and it comes to a crap hit the fan situation, there are so many places that are national forest that if you can't find, I mean, because you're going to be camping anyway, but you don't have to buy anything. And in the wintertime like this, I did a lot of research. I've been to Arkansas several times, camping and other things, and tried my best to move there. I did, spent 6 weeks there and lived in the national forest back in the day. So I'm telling you this from experience, but in a lot of the national forest areas, starting in September, maybe the 1st of October, because it's out of season, it's free to camp in any of the national park campgrounds. Now there are some of those that hold out, but there are a lot of them. It doesn't cost anything to stay on, and they will at least have a pit toilet, and they will at least have a hand pump. Now, if it's really cold, it might freeze up. But to the point, though, the other thing would be, see if you can't buy any land, see if you could lease it. Now, if the crap hits the fan and you need to go somewhere, okie dokie. If you're close enough. Now, to me, Arkansas is way too far for me to go. And the other thing is that crossing the Mississippi, if you get on the other side of the Mississippi, if anything happens, then all the stuff that's made on the East Coast is not going to get west. For whatever reason, they can shut down bridges. They can shut down railway going across the Mississippi. And if it ain't made on the west side of the Mississippi, you ain't going to get it. Now, that doesn't mean that, but I've had to think about that back in the day when I was moving out there, because I always wondered, if I wanted to come back from Arkansas and crap hit the fan, could I get across the river? Well, now my family don't really care, so that actually would have been a moot point. But I had to think about it and go, well, if I stay on this side of the river, most of the folks I know live on this side of the river, so I can get to them. You know what I mean? So, but now that I got kayaks and canoes, I could float across if I needed to. But anyway, but if you're on that side of the river, go for it. You know what I mean? Southern Missouri is really pretty too. The Mark Twain National Forest, the Ozark. Now, there are 2 national forests in Arkansas. The north section in Boston Mountains and up in there of Arkansas is the Ozark Mountains. And there's different sections of it. And along the Buffalo River, which is the first national river in the United States, Bill Clinton signed it in, his state, yeah. But it really was a good thing. I've been on many sections of the Buffalo River, and it's freaking beautiful, and I'm glad they saved it. Anyway, now on the south side, on the other side of the river, the Arkansas River, is the Ouachita Mountains. It's a Q-U-A, Ouachita. Now, I found that there are certain areas of the Ouachita Mountains that were kind of bleak and rocky and stone. I found it terrain-wise, it could be harder to live in the southern section of Arkansas versus the northern sections. And here's the reason why. It's always said that if there are bears in the area, if a bear can live, a man can live. Period. If a bear can live, a man can live. And I don't mean because you shoot the bear. But southern Arkansas didn't see many bears in the mountains, but northern Arkansas, they're all around. So, in that aspect of, what is available to us, if it'll support a bear population, that's where you want to go. Because there is a diversity of plants and other things. So I would go to the northern section of Arkansas or southern Missouri, and they share the same mountain range, kind of, sort of. But it's the Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri. But now, if you can't get there, and it's 2 or 3 tanks of gas from here, so if there's nothing open and I don't have enough, I ain't gonna make it anyway. So, but what I have learned is to find those places here in my area. So wherever you are, look for those areas if you got a split that you could get to reasonably with a half a tank of gas or whatever, and be reasonably comfortable in knowing that there are local herbs and fish or whatever, wildlife that could possibly sustain you. Now, the folks down here, I was having a discussion with my friend the other day, and he goes, if the crap hits the fan in a couple of weeks, as some of these folks are predicting. Now, I'm not predicting that, okay? Just saying. But I am damn prepared. Now, I would have bought some more stuff today, but my truck wouldn't run. So I'll go to the store tomorrow. But it's time for me to go. It's been 10 days, time for me to go to the grocery store. So it's not like unthinkable for me to like, whoa, I got to go to the store and stock up. Every 10 days, I always do that. Anyway, but the idea, though, that some folks have not thought about this a lick. And most of us are praying that nothing happens. But my friend was saying, he goes, give 2 or 3 weeks and the stores don't get replenished. And they're going to be traipsing through your backyard along the river looking for food and trying to fish and trying to hunt. And I was like, I don't think so. And he was like, you want to bet? And I was like, have you ever really been in the deep woods back here? There are places, and I'm a stubborn sumbitch, okay? Just saying that I don't even want to go, you know what I mean? And I will go most places, But for someone who's never traipsed around in the woods, especially this far out of town, not that they couldn't get here, but to the point, though, that they're going to have to know about the woods, and especially on the river, because you can get lost easier than crap. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can get hurt. And if you don't know how to hunt, it ain't going to do you any good to go back in my backyard anyway. So you'd have to stake you out a place. I mean, the idea that people are just going to be roaming around, not to say they won't, mind you, but, there are 30,000 people in Colquitt County, and it's a fairly large county. So how many miles or how many acres or, per person kind of thing. So what you need to do is look for population density, all right, in your area, and find out where the least, amount of people live per land mass. And you can do it by county, okay? It's easy to find for each state, and each county in the state usually. So, and you might pick some obscure place like, folks around here is like, if I really had to go somewhere, I wouldn't go to the mountains. Now, why, you ask? Because I'm equipped to go in the swamps. So I could head east towards the Atlantic from me and be in the Okefenokee Swamp. And there are a lot of people that won't go in the Okefenokee Swamp still to this day. But there are islands, there are places, and if you know how to work the water, and they got some big ass alligators over there. Let me tell you, I mean big alligators, nothing like around here. They're like 18 feet long, and their mouths are as big as, my arm. Got your current Fairy floss will hit the fan all nicely sugar coated. Yep. Yeah, Cash on hand told my community. Yep. And it's interesting. I've been talking about this for a while now, not trying to spread it, but other people now who, these communities and folks, they're talking about the same thing. Have encouraged folks to do. And they're like, you really ought to go to the bank and get as much money out. And you really ought to go get, and I mean, this has just been in the last 2 days, and I'm looking around going, they're talking about exactly the same kind of thing I'm thinking of. Now, I have rechargeable batteries, okay? And uh I've got solar floodlights and things for my yard, and they take certain size batteries. Most of the time, the AA. And I've learned that you can make some of these a little bigger. But here, if you got a AAA, you can put a little spacer in it, like a nut or a bowl, a little tiny bolt or something. Anyway, you can fill up that space from uh, if it's a AA size collector, you can put a little spacer in there and use a AAA. But you can't put a AA in a AAA hole. That just don't work. So I've got a lot of AAA stuff and little spacers to go. It's really easy to do. Do you know where Roared Folks is? It's a real town. Where at? Johan? Plus, you can change them yourself. Yep. Valuable tips. So, but anyway, about the music thing and having a radio, you can buy a little, I've got a little portable CD player, just a little thing. And it runs off of 2 or 3 AA batteries. And it's amazing, so it'll play CDs, won't play a DVD, but they make DVD players too. But if it's going to get that bad, what you need is a radio. And I don't have one. I did have one, and the thing just don't work now. But, to have a radio to where you could listen to shortwave. Now, one thing I did invest in was a couple of walkie-talkies with a 20-mile, insight. So 20 miles across the desert, you could hear somebody. But I left a friend of mine at the house and went driving, and I made it 12 miles from where he was at. And I could still hear him on these walkie-talkies. And they were only like $60. But I bought this stuff years ago, and I bought it with the intention if I go down on the river or I go camping. But the other side of the coin is there's 24 channels, and it's got at least a 10, 12-mile radius. So I can hear to the next 2 small towns at least. I can almost get to Moultrie, which is 15 miles. So if I got up on a hill with a little bit of an antenna, I might be able to pick up Moultrie, right? I also have a CB radio. It's not installed, but I got it, and it doesn't take anything to hook it up, kind of thing. Although I don't know if I have an antenna. That's something I need. I used to have a magnetic antenna that I put on top of the truck. But anyway, but to the point, though, the understanding of communication. So somebody in a chat room the other day, I was watching another channel. They were talking about the Trump thing and all this and things going weird and we can't communicate. And it was like, so his remark was, so we just go back to the old days of the CB radio and the CB code, because a lot of people, what the hell are they talking about? And CBers and because I used to be a CBer back in the day in the 70s and 80s. When I was driving up in, trucks and with the carnival and all that kind of stuff, that's how you communicated, And also when we were bringing weed and stuff back from Florida, you could, hey, and, Smokey report, and so that was always handy too. But having been out of the CB radio thing for a little while, I can't comment necessarily on that, but current situation. But to have a CB radio, which you don't really have to have a license for, and if you're down in the woods and everything else is shut off, how do you communicate with other people with CB radios? And some of us rednecks, we still have CB radios and that kind of thing. So car radio, and AM stations, because AM stations you can pick up with a crystal radio. An FM station is a line of sight. So you want to have a really good AM station, or if if you know how to make a crystal set, from the days of when I made one in the Cub Scouts, Boy Scout kind of thing, with a toilet paper roll and some wire and some aluminum foil and stuff, simple to make. And and there are all kinds of instructions online to make these things. You got 2 gas generators, at least solar. My point is that if you can't get to them, and let me show you, for example, hold that thought for a second. Now here's a solar collector, and it's from Yard Lights, okay? And it's got a really nice, sizable area here. And it takes 3 AA batteries in the back, okay? Now you just set this up on a pole. Now it's got a connection here where you could plug in yard lamps, right? And the main reason that I wanted it for was simply so I could recharge batteries. Solar, no extra stuff, and it's got an on-off switch and all that kind of stuff. But and I could hook up, somewhere I've got the lamps. I don't know where they are. Then there's connectors. But anyway, but the biggest thing is, no matter what, I can charge up 3 AA batteries, or with a spacer, I can charge up 3 AAA batteries. And I had them, they was on sale at Walmart or something, for the spring thing. They were cleaning out or whatever. But anyway, it was $30 or something. Now you can get some better deals, and hold that thought. I'll show you what my next other backup is. Glad to see y'all here. Now this one is Open Trails, little floodlight, simple thing on top, and the top comes off, and there's 2 little screws, and there's a switch right there. You can turn it off or on. And these usually take a AAA battery. Now here's the thing: if you need light, you charge up one of these things. I got a couple of them in the yard. They'll last several hours. So if you put this out in the yard during the daytime and you don't have any light in the house, right? Electricity's off, whatever, you don't want to, for one battery and this thing, it will give you plenty of light, at least on a part-time basis. I'm looking for the switch. Oh, there it is. Let me turn it on here. I'm gonna turn off the light here. Now this has been a brand new one. It was like $4 at the dollar store, okay? And so if I need to read something, it's not real bright, but if I'm in a situation that I don't have any light, it's going to be really nice, and sure, it's not going to run all night, but I can take this outside in the daytime and charge it back up, and it's the battery. It's worth it for the price of the battery, because rechargeable batteries now are $2 or $3 a piece, and I paid $3, $3.50 for this. I think was the price. So I got a solar charger and the battery and a lamp for the price of a rechargeable battery. Okay, and these things will last almost. I've got a couple of them in the yard, and they start weakening down after about 8 or 9 months. But you can take the battery out and put a different one in there. But the thing is that if you need something, these will come in really handy. Let me show you something else. When I turned off the light, it came on. Now this is $3, okay, and it's got a little it's got a little screw there. I take it out, but I looks like a double A battery, okay. So, and it's basically, if I cover it up, the light comes on. So if any time in the house where the lights go out, this sits in the window and recharges itself. But if the lights go out, I've got this night light that comes on automatically. So, and the thing is, if you're in so I have a light and I have a solar charger and a battery that can be replaced for $3. Now it's like, so do you have to spend a lot of money? No. And do you have to have all kinds of other things? No. And for me, I've been looking at low tech where other people are like putting, solar panels on their house and they're changing the whole house over to it. And I'm like, that's too inefficient. And it costs a crap load of money. So we in this world need to keep it simple, stupid, and portable lights like this, that if I want to go upstairs, I carry this with me, or I take one of these and I go up and down the stairs and I've got my little headlamps and stuff. But these are my rechargers. So if I use a headlamp a lot and the battery goes down and I'm not using one of these gizmos, then the next day I take the batteries out of my headlamp or whatever, and I put them in my chargers that are out in the yard, and I can move them around in the yard too, because like right now there's no leaves on the trees, but when the shade comes, I'm going to have to move these things farther out in the field, so they'll get more sunlight. But to the point though, do you need a lot of money? No. For $10 you could buy a couple of these. You got to run. You too, Johan. Keep it good. We're not in Syria, no third world. I'll keep my thoughts elsewhere. Um, yeah, I'm not praying for anything bad, Good night, Teresa. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not proposing that things are going to be changing a lot. But here's the thing, though. These crazy people, we don't know what they're going to do. Now, the main reason why I've done this is because out here in the country, we don't ever know one way or the other through a storm or a transformer coming out. Lights go out all the time for various reasons. About a week ago, right in the middle of the daytime, the electricity was off on the whole neighborhood. They were doing repairs on a line, but to my point, all of us out here in this area didn't have any electricity. So having stored water, now it was only for about 5 or 6 hours, but if you don't have water stored or whatever kind of thing, then if you want to cook lunch and you want to do this, or you thought you were going to be able to flush the commode, then you have to change your ways around. So country folk are kind of used to this kind of stuff. So I'm prepared because of storms and just stuff, not the end of the world, but these things work really well in a pinch and without a lot of money. So, or too much thought or whatever, and they're cheap and, anyway. So, but in this things, and I can't believe I'm still here yakking after an hour. I buy 4 tree solar lights every time I go. Yeah. And I've got a couple of other ones over there that I've never, like this is, I just turned this on tonight for the first time. But when I go back to the dollar store, I'm going to get me a couple of more because the ones I've had in the yard have been out in the yard for a while and they don't stay lit very long. But, and for $4, I got $10 to buy two. You know what I mean? I'm not that broke. But it's also useful to put them out in the yard. I mean, they serve lots of other purposes than just in case, right? I think I was abducted and taken to another dimension. I want to get a bunch of Dollar Tree lights and string them up together. Yep. Hold the light, folks. Blessings and keep shining. Yes. But anyway, so as far as this, and we don't know what these folks are going to do. We really don't. And I wouldn't be surprised because of the power shift. Their agendas are totally different from what it has been up to this point. So um, we need to, if there's ever been a time to be a little bit more careful, now's the time. In my 68 years of life, I was referring to this the other day. I haven't seen anything like this since the 60s, and the real riots and looting and, in Watts and in Chicago and uh, Watts is in California, right? Los Angeles, I think. But anyway, and there were several towns. I mean, they had skirmishes in Tampa, but not near what other towns did. But I mean, the beatings and, uh, just unbelievable. And we want to say that, well, this is similar times. It may be similar, but I remember how bad it was back then. And there were people who were literally scared to death for their lives. And now it's like, but everybody else is scared to death for another reason. I'm like, well, it hasn't reached what the 60s was. And God knows I don't want it to happen, But people are like, oh, it's the worst it's ever been. Nah, you just ain't old enough to remember. That's all, you know. But I'm praying it don't get there at even close. Now it's been close this last summer and so forth, and there are people lining up with masks and shields and wanting to beat people to death, really, if we don't believe what they believe. And it's almost like a reverse racism kind of thing because they want to use, BLM and ANTIFA kind of thing as helter skelter. Yep. So it's like, and I'm down here in the South and I'm quite comfortable with folks down here. AOC made a comment the other day that people in the South needed to be, basically go back to school and be re-educated because us Southerners didn't know what we were talking about, and that we should go down in the South and we should re-educate these Southerners. And I wrote a comment to whoever's channel that was that had it, and was like, I live in the South in Georgia, and if you come down here, well, you ain't gonna like it, especially if you're going to try to put us in re-education camps. You think that this idea the South shall rise again? Listen, there's a bunch of us. I'm old and crippled and crazy, half blind, partially blind, as the saying, blind, crippled, and crazy. Um, but I'm here to tell you, I don't have any firearms because I'm a felon. But I would, go ahead. I dare you. Come get me to put me in a re-education camp. You might as well just burn me out, shoot me, and get it over with, right? Because I'm too old and I'm not worth anything as much as other people. But this idea of re-educating the Southerners, because we don't, oh my God, if I could have reached through that screen and slapped her, I would have, you know what I mean? So anyway, because it's like, you Northeast liberal bitch, is sort of what was going on in my head. Who are you to say what you think is right for us Southerners when we're down here getting along just fine? There are killings, don't get me wrong, but it's usually drug related and some kind of, drive by something in a neighborhood to something. Up in Albany, they have shootings all the time. Now, not to be disrespectful, but it's like 65% black. And but there is the occasional shooting down here, but it's very rarely white people shooting anybody, but a lot of Mexicans here, and they will shoot each other, get too high on tequila and whatever, and pull out their little pistol and wham bam, there you go, or stab them. There's a lot of stabbings where not so much shooting, but it's killing anyway. But I've got my bow and arrows, and I've got backups, and I've got a crossbow, and I've got little handheld crossbows, and I've got two regular draw type recurve bows that are about 50-pound pull, 45, 50-pound pull. And, I'm better than I should be at it, but you can't hear an arrow coming, but you can hear a gunshot. And I can hide in my own woods and dare you to take me somewhere. Now, I'm not trying to be a belligerent son of a bitch, but I'm just saying that, if it comes to that, Southerners know how to fight. Just saying. They know how to get along. And they also know how to get by under extreme circumstances. So they think they're going to try something, forget about it. 65, you're going to bless us all now. Hold the light. Yep. I'm fixing to shut up. But this idea, though, that these, when Obama was in office, I didn't say, well, I want to re-educate all them people. I'd wished a lot of them would re-educate themselves, but I don't want to send anybody to a camp unless they're just going to be a complete butthole. Hey, Regen, to you, and I'm going to be out of here too. I'm signing off here in a second. So, but anyway, this idea of trying to make somebody else believe and do what you think or say, we all have an opinion, but I'm not going to try to force them to think my way. And I would ask that we get the same honor and respect back to us. So, with that said, I do wish you all a good night and a good tomorrow. No matter what it's going to be, let's keep the faith. Yes, there's going to be a lot of changes, but so this idea of prepping with a phone, good luck. I honestly mean it, although I'm a little sarcastic when I say it. Take your best shot now. Don't wait. Just in case. That's all. Not to be paranoid, just in case. Food in a can, pasta, some rice, and get yourself some damn. That's what I was saying earlier. You'd be surprised. A cheap bottle, you can get a good bottle, but a cheap bottle of barbecue sauce mixed in with a little water and dumped in with something can help spice up an otherwise dull, dreary, crappy meal that you've had beans for 4 days in a row. And remember, if you eat beans 4 days in a row, you're going to be passing gas, and there are repercussions to eating them beans and how you get rid of your poo and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I wish everybody the best. I do. I'm still praying for the good side. I'm going to pray for the good side regardless. Win or lose, still praying for the good side. So with that said, I'm praying for y'all too. And I know you all are praying in your own way that this, however this turns out, that it turns out, to the good. Even if it's the other side, that, something will be a calming force, So I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will continue to learn about the healing and the knowledge and the wisdom in the universe, and that you will continue to accept and receive and continue to share those blessings, knowledge, healing, and wisdom from the universe. I continue to pray every day when I put my feet on the floor that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. And in that law of three, especially in comedy, I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations will continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And y'all keep sharing what you know. And be humble about it, and try not to be snarky. I know today I was thinking some rather snarky thoughts, and at the end of it, I was like, that's really not necessary. I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking it, and I was like, okay, got to keep our cool, and we got try to keep our snarkiness out of this. So thank you, Bob. Lady Spitfire, you're always late. Oh, drat. Um, Rejan, I guess. Isby, thank you all for being in my reality. You're welcome. And Delaney, I got a video of a van that crashed into Murphy's Law office. Sister Delaney, you're a trip, let me tell you. Murphy's Law. And I have a friend of mine whose name is Eddie Murphy, and he lives right down the road. Honestly, but he says, I'm not black and I'm not funny, but my name is Eddie Murphy. So, but anyway, so Lady Spitfire, sorry you got here late. It was just one of them things, and it was before 10 o'clock, and I said, what the hell? So, but anyway, I love you all. Take care. Be sweet. Be kind. Be as generous as you possibly can. But above all, stay prepared. And if you're, I know an Audie Murphy. Yep. Always with the thank you, Isby. Delaney. We call Murphy's Law Wagner's Way. Oh, that's wonderful. I got a white Uncle Tom too. Does he live in a cabin there? Delaney, much thanks. I've been wanting to acrylic paint rocks with positive thoughts. That's a good thing. And if you use any types of symbols, make sure you know what the symbols are. Not to say that you don't, but people will copy a symbol and they don't really know what the symbol means. So, but anyway, put that positive out there. Well, thank you, Isby. All y'all are my wonderful friends too. And as Mother Nature says, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and you wouldn't be here because if I wasn't. So it's mutually beneficial to me. But it's not about money. It's not about price. It's not about being famous. It is just about being friends with y'all and saying, hey, this is today's topic. Regen, love and romance is not the same thing. Absolutely. 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 But anyway, have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great tomorrow. And Lady Spitfire, it's good to see you. It's good to see all y'all in here, honestly. So take care. And as we say down here in South Georgia, TTFN. Thank you, Bob. Cheers, everybody. Till next time, please be safe. And I got to go put more fire in the heater, but be well, be safe, and stay in love. Bye, y'all.